Peace, greetings, and salutations. Boy Fatal Pros. I'm doing another live reading of this book, Salvation, Black People in Love, Bell Hooks. We are playing catch up, got behind a little bit in our reading, so using this opportunity to get another chapter in today. We read one this morning and we're going to read another one this evening. This is chapter 7, Cherishing Single Mothers. And so we're going to, I'm going to read straight through, but I'll stop after every paragraph to check the comments to see if there is anyone that has something to say. As always, after the reading, if there's someone that has any reflections that they'd like to share, either in the comments or live, I'll also make space and time for that as well. So thank you for those who are joining me. Again, we'll be doing a live reading of Salvation, Black People in Love. This will be on my YouTube channel, shortly thereafter for your review. And so just really getting into this book, man, too. So I just had to read another chapter since I had the time. So this is Cherishing Single Mothers. Sorry. Throughout the United States, there are more single-parent households than ever before in the nation's history. Yet Black women remain the one group of single parents who are consistently attacked, assailed on all sides by a white supremacist culture and stereotypes Black females as welfare queens, by Black men who claim they are the victim of these castrating breeders who would rather live off welfare than have a good man support them, and by the shaming judgment of a nation that castigates unmarried poor women who birth children while idolizing unmarried rich and famous women who choose to parent. Single Black mothers are increasingly represented in the mass media as harsh, uncaring parents. A large group of Black single mothers parent alone because they are divorced. They are working mothers. Like their non-Black counterparts who receive state aid, most of them would relish being economically supported by a caring male provider. It's a myth that Black women prefer to raise children alone. Even most single professional women living alone who choose to adopt a child will prefer sharing parenting with a caring partner. Parenting alone is difficult work. No one knows this better than Black women, and it is even more difficult when women are poor. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. This will be on my YouTube, so you can definitely catch this later as well. But thank you for stopping in. I appreciate it. We'll continue. Barbara Omalad's The Rising Song of African American Women includes one of the most insightful discussions about Black single mothers ever written in a chapter titled It's a Family Affair. Throughout this essay, she draws together facts and figures to counter negative stereotypes about Black single mothers. Omalad writes, most Black single mothers are the working poor. We do domestic work, sew in factories, and are self-employed as merchants and caterers. We commute daily to city, state, and federal government agencies. As paralegals, aides, and clerks, we are the backbone of the hospital, child care, and nursing home systems. Although the wages are low and the work tedious, Black women stay with city jobs for years because they offer stability and benefits. More often than not, when the topic is Black single mothers, the image evoked is one of Black women on welfare. Working Black single mothers tend to be ignored in this society unless they can be evoked as a means of pathologizing Black family life. Oh. Yep, Fatal Pros. Yep, same. It's on Linktree too. Yep, absolutely. For a long time, working Black single mothers were simply ignored. When the white supremacist patriarchal mass media wanted to paint a portrait of pathology, it highlighted Black women receiving welfare. Usually, the spotlight would focus on an individual Black woman with 4 or more children by different men who was lying to the system to receive more aid. It has never mattered to the listening public that this image is not representative. However, in recent years, as more concrete statistics about who actually receives aid and how much money recipients are actually given are made public, anyone who is not blinded by bias has to face the extent to which negative images of Black women on welfare are flaunted as a way to scapegoat them and leave unquestioned issues of class, race, and imperialism when it comes to the allocation of funding. I want to place a spotlight on Black single mothers to talk about the concrete practice of a love ethic in Black life because there is so much evidence to document that this group, more than any other against the odds, has created a space of love within the home. It reflects the extreme nature of our collective crisis that more than ever before in our nation's history, Black people participate in the overall assault of the integrity of Black single mothers. In the popular mass media, Black single mothers are represented as castrating, I won't say that word, who want to irresponsibly breed children they cannot support. Little distinction is made between working single mothers and women on welfare. They are both unjustly represented as criminals, and the children they parent are represented as would-be criminals. Were there any book written documenting contemporary representation of single mothers in our society, the gap between how white women have been represented, a recent portrayal is that of the hardworking single mom in the film As Good as It Gets, and the representation of Black women would be clear. White single mothers tend to be represented positively. They are depicted as hardworking victims of circumstances not of their own choosing, or professional women who at heart are loving Madonna figures. Black single mothers are more often than not depicted as neglectful, violent, mentally depraved substance abusers. Ooh. Currently, the focus on family values, along with efforts to dismantle welfare, has led to violent condemnation of Black single mothers on all fronts. Under this guise of family values, Black males have added their voices to the critique of Black single mothers. Underlying the attacks on Black single mothers is the assumption that patriarchal families are the healthiest. Of course, most of the recent work on nuclear families highlights that these families are more often than not dysfunctional. Feminist scholarship on family life calls attention to the extent to which coercive male domination erodes family values. Widespread domestic violence and male-perpetuated incest are two indications that the patriarchal nuclear family is not inherently a more positive location to raise children than a single-parent household. Peace. Thank you for joining. Many folks choose to believe that the patriarchal nuclear family is best because they imagine it will be a household with a greater income. Masses of women in this country know that male domination often means that men who head households do not willingly give their money to the support of women and children. In the early part of the 20th century, the temperance movement exposed the extent to which male patriarchal heads of households withheld money from families to support drinking and carousing. Today, men who earn decent incomes often gamble wages away, playing the lottery, or engage in substance abuse or womanizing. When the woman in the home also works, patriarchal men are even more inclined to distribute their funds in such a way as to ensure that the family resources will not expand. He may do this by simply deducting from the household funds he once contributed the amount of money that women have made. In two-parent Black families, where women may make as much money as their mates, if not more, patriarchal men assume their rightful role. Such arguments tend to If not more, patriarchal men often deploy various strategies to ensure their control of finances. Studies of patriarchal white families show that when divorce happens, the male heads of household often withhold economic support from women and children. The struggle over household funds can often be such a site of conflict that women of all races and classes simply give in to male demands. These facts can be easily ignored by patriarchal male politicians who want to make it seem as if the presence of men in families means more economic resources and greater emotional stability. Women and children in homes where men withhold their resources know from experience that simply having an adult male present does not mean a better material life or that the household will be a caring and supportive environment. Hey, peace, how are you? Says this passage resonates with me and other women I'm close to. Give thanks, give thanks. We are reading Salvation, Black People in Love by Bell Hooks. We're in chapter 7, Cherishing Single Mothers. So thank you. I'll be doing a live reading, and then after this chapter is read, then we'll open it up for anyone who'd like to discuss or give commentary. So thank you. Amazingly, despite the hardships they face, working Black single mothers unequivocally give the bulk of their resources to caring for the welfare of children. This contribution to the material well-being of their children is rarely highlighted. Instead, these mothers must confront sexist stereotypes which deem them castrating matriarchs, because they take their parenting roles seriously. Yet it is this high quality of care that makes Black single mothers worthy guides for anyone examining the impact of a love ethic in Black life. The combination of care, knowledge, respect, and responsibility that is the foundation of loving practice is clearly evident in the parenting styles of many Black single mothers. When Black single mothers raise children who become healthy, self-loving, productive citizens, no one calls attention to the strategies they have used to create a positive family life that stands as a complement or alternative to the patriarchal model. We would all like to read studies documenting and highlighting their parenting skills, showing us what they did right. Instead, we hear the most about single mothers when something has gone wrong in an individual family. While this is even more true if the family receives welfare, the negative fallout impacts on all Black single mothers. Ignoring all evidence to the contrary, a vast majority of Black male leaders have championed the patriarchal family model. Rarely do they talk about what has motivated fathers to absent themselves from families or to fail to contribute economically. Black males who participated in the Million Man March pledged to assume greater responsibility in families, claiming what some patriarchal men consider their rightful place as head of households. They critiqued welfare, but they simply did not talk about the dangerous implications of patriarchal male rule. Underlying much of the discussion of Black male absence from parenting was an implied critique of Black females. Sexist Black men often suggest that Black men are absent because Black females have not allowed them to assume their rightful role. Such arguments tend to assume the reality of Black male abandonment and disregard of families. And it in no way examines the extent to which patriarchal Black male heads of household have no better track record than their white counterparts when the issue is providing material and emotional care to families. Were more studies done highlighting the actions, behaviors, and values of patriarchal Black males who are heads of household and the impact their parenting behavior has on children, we might have a more realistic base from which to determine whether their presence truly enhances the well-being of children. It should be obvious that all children are likely to be more healthy when raised in a home that is, first and foremost, loving. Homes where there are loving males and female caregivers undoubtedly offer children a positive environment. Yet none of the discussion about the harmful effects of absent Black male fathers has centralized love. Instead, patriarchal thinking implies that simply by being present, Black fathers ensure that Black children will have healthy self-esteem and self-love. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Instead, patriarchal thinking implies that simply by being present, Black fathers ensure that Black children will have healthy self-esteem and self-love. This is simply not true. A domineering and or violent abusive father who is present will not be creating a home environment that promotes a child's well-being. Men do not make life good for women and children by simply being present. It is how they act and interact that makes the difference. Preach. Destructive behavior by present Black fathers makes Black family life dangerous and precarious, just as constructive behavior enhances family life. By emphasizing the negative, I do not mean to imply that all Black fathers are unkind, cruel, or irresponsible. However, if there were a large mass of loving Black fathers eager to assume material responsibility for their children and able to provide emotional nurturance, there would be no need to discuss absent fathers, for there would be no problem. Commitment to co-parenting, either when they are present in the home or after the parents break up, would still ensure that Black fathers could play a meaningful role in the lives of their children. Scapegoating single Black mothers has allowed Black men to deflect attention away from a discussion of the meaning of parenting in their lives. We live in a culture where all men have access to practical, affordable, and adequate forms of birth control. No responsible man need father children he does not want to care for. Until our society stops blaming single mothers, the necessary scholarship that looks at Black male motives for fathering children that they do not parent will never be undertaken. Concurrently, bashing single mothers does not change the reality that single parent households are becoming more a norm for all groups. These families are usually headed by women. Rather than negatively stereotyping these families as at risk or as pathological, scholars need to highlight single parenting, female-headed households that are loving environments. Significantly, the refusal of our nation to recognize the extraordinary contribution of single mothers who give loving care is tied to the sexist assumption that caregiving is inherently a female trait and not a choice. Yet the fact that some women are from the onset of childbirth unwilling to nurture or give care exposes the fallacy of this myth. While many fathers choose to turn away and abandon children, mothers faced with the same freedom of choice not only stay, but do the work of providing economic and emotional stability in the home. That choice is a valuable contribution to family life in our nation. These families are usually no more unstable than those with benevolent patriarchal males present. Much of the attack on black single mothers has centered on the issue of parenting black boys. When the men's movement first began, its leaders insisted that boys could not be taught how to be men by women, that they needed a male presence. These comments were bandied about without any facts to show that male children raised by single mothers suffer some substantive lack that boys raised in two-parent households do not. Of course, experiential reality does not support this claim. Many of the men, black and non-black, who have become important leaders in our society, men of wisdom, integrity, and right action, were raised by single mothers. Granted, there are examples of boys raised by single mothers who do not succeed in life, but we see the same problem in boys who have both male and female parental caregivers present. In the case of my own brother, raised in a God-fearing patriarchal home where our mother did not work and our father provided, parental shaming of our brother for being sensitive and gentle, not for being a stellar athlete, was wounding and terribly detrimental to his growth. His temporary fall into irresponsible behavior and addiction was utterly linked to the lack of loving care by our dad. Until this nation can acknowledge that patriarchal fathers who use coercion and other forms of violence to discipline children do not raise healthy, self-loving children, there will be no clear understanding of the value of any male choosing to be a loving parent. Concurrently, when this knowledge is taken into consideration by those who harshly judge single-parent households, the value of women's contribution in raising healthy boys can be fully recognized. This book was written 20 years ago, by the way. Clearly, females can raise psychologically whole and healthy boys. Single mothers raising children alone seem to understand better than anyone that it is important for their children to have positive, caring interaction with men. Before the breakdown of neighborhood communalism and the formation of the privatized world of housing projects, which isolated poor women and children, there was no black single mother who raised a child without the input of adult male elders and peers. And even in the face of the obstacles privatized housing creates, loving black single mothers make sure that their children have the opportunity to learn from men by interacting with them. They see this as important for both male and female children. Again, it must be stated that single mothers welcome the participation of male parental caregivers. There is no evidence to the contrary. However, there is plenty of evidence that men who are dominating and disruptive, who are violent and abusive, are not welcome in healthy female-headed households. Way too many women have internalized guilt about single parenting that has been unjustly placed upon them by our society and have sought to bring men into the home and keep them there, even when the men were disruptive, exploitative, and cruel. These women are merely following the dictates of a society which tells them that the home is a better place if a man is present. I appreciate the upliftment, and I uplift you as well in return. No home is a good environment to raise children in if parents are not loving. There's a big difference between unloving, female-headed households and those that are loving. A dysfunctional parent will not create a healthy environment for children. This is as true for the female-headed single-parent household as it is for the male-headed single-parent household. It is equally true of the two-parent household. Children grow best physically and emotionally in homes where they are loved. Clearly, a poor, isolated single female who is not yet emotionally mature, who has not known love, who does not know how to give love to herself or others will not parent well. Her emotional dysfunctions impede her own growth and make her unable to aid others in their growth. More often than not, young single black females who do not choose pregnancy but through misfortune, fail to use birth control, failure of birth control method, coercive sex, give birth to children they did not want, will not parent well. If these mothers receive welfare benefits, they are not allowed to get on-the-job training or experience. As a consequence, they may remain caught in a protracted adolescence where they spend the day watching television or doing nothing. They are prime targets for depression and addiction. Their failure to parent well, to create a healthy home environment, is caused neither by their being single nor by their economic status. It is a reflection of their lack of self-development and self-actualization. Raised in the midst of dysfunction, their children often do not learn the necessary skills to grow and prosper in this society. Hence, a generational cycle of dysfunction is put in place. This is clearly a problem. It will not be solved by simply adding a man into the mix, even if that were possible, which it is not. For demographics, parenting choices, sexual preferences, incarceration make this an unrealistic expectation. Critics of black single mothers insult the intelligence of families when they suggest that the problems in dysfunctional homes can be solved by men assuming control or simply by putting an adult male in the home. Usually, the attack on single mothers who receive welfare is aimed solely at strengthening the position of those political and economic parties that wish to end state aid. While most women, particularly those who have received welfare benefits, understand the need for welfare reform, they also know the importance of having state aid in a society with severe unemployment problems and no affordable health care. The primary benefits of welfare have been housing and health care. While the monetary assistance women receive is vital to their survival, it is a pittance compared to the amount that is actually needed for baseline maintenance of a household. I'm going to just read that again. While the monetary assistance women receive is vital to their survival, it is a pittance compared to the amount that is actually needed for baseline maintenance of a household. I always think that the men who speak so eloquently against welfare, many of whom have children that they do not parent, even if they contribute economically, should have to maintain a household for a month on state aid while being caregivers. Despite the reality of child abuse in all families, irrespective of class, and especially in dysfunctional, poor, and utterly destitute families, it is remarkable that children do not die from the sheer misery and hardship they are forced to endure. If black leaders, mostly male, continue to ignore the valuable contributions to the stability of black family life made by caring single mothers, they will undermine and ultimately destroy the valuable and essential contributions single mothers make as they strive to create healthy homes for themselves and their children. Obviously, given the odds against them, many single mothers give adequate care but are unable to fully create an ideal home life. All praise is due working single black mothers and their comrades receiving state aid who manage, in the face of adversity and circumstances they cannot change, to create loving home environments. They need to be given grants to write the guides for their dysfunctional counterparts and for everyone parenting under circumstances that are not ideal. These women are seers with wisdom to share with our communities and the nation about the nature of love. Unrecognized and unappreciated, they do the work of loving every day. I just read to you chapter 7 of Salvation, Black People in Love by the great late Bell Hooks. This chapter was on cherishing single mothers. So as customary, I open it up to the comments, those who were able to listen, at least in part. If you have things that you'd like to share on the topic of cherishing single mothers, I open this forum to you and offer this platform for you to speak, either in the comments or if you have 1,000 followers and you'd like to hop on and share your thoughts, we welcome you. Alan Summerhead says, seers with wisdom. Yes. Yep, absolutely. One Moo Child, peace. How are you? Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Ebony Chisholm, thank you for joining. But yeah, what were your thoughts? I mean, cherishing single mothers. As I read this book, and keep in mind, I had this book in my possession for about 20 years. I got it when I was in college. Shortly after I got it, a whole bunch of things happened. Took me through the journey of my life. And now I'm, after kind of, having my eyes opened, a few years back and really going on my current journey, I find this book again and wanted to share it with you. Yeah, it is amazing. It's written 20 years ago, and it's amazing. The writing is amazing, but it's also amazing that we are still dealing with some of these same issues. In fact, almost verbatim, some of these same arguments are being made now that were made 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And it means that in part, one, the situations that we deal with are daunting. These are situations that have not developed over a short period of time. They've been developing since the inception of this nation, since before the inception of this nation. With chattel slavery and on up from there. So it's going to take some time to unravel some of these things. But at the same time, to be dealing with the same issues 20 and 30 years later and to see no movement in thought against them is also frustrating. It means that, we've got work to do is what it means. So, and this wisdom is useful today. Absolutely. So, absolutely. Chrissy says, I love the part about even if the father was in the home, he needed to be present and positive. Yeah, you're so right. We think that there's this magic pill of male presence that will solve all the problems. If there was just a man in the house, everything would just be washed away. And I think part of that is a Cinderella complex, that's pushed on women, that, all you need is a man and everything's going to be all right. Picket fence, flowers and daisies, sun setting over the hillside. And that's just not true. It does matter the type of man that you have in your house and also what he's actually doing. Where is his heart? Where is his mind? Where is his focus? All of those things matter. And I'm not putting myself above that. I've lived those mistakes. That's the reason why I want to share this book more than anything is so that young men can hear, some of these thoughts before they make those mistakes while they're still establishing their family or before they establish their family, so they can have a firmer foundation than I had. Chrissy says, I had a father, but not present and not positive. Have had horrible relationships with men. I'm so sorry for that. That breaks my heart. I think that Alan Summerhay says, and that's how my family was. Just keep the man in the house, but presence isn't enough. That's true. Presence is not enough. I think that we as men have to be present here. One of the things that helped me in my journey was studying mindfulness. Studying mindfulness, and that's being present in your body in the moment with the people that are around you. So many times, and this isn't just for men. Women need to practice mindfulness too. But I think, at least in my experience, the women in my life do a much better job at multitasking. They are masters at it. Can watch TV, read a book, be on the phone, having a conversation with two people at the same time while also watching the kid, while also thinking about all the different things they have to do next. That has been my experience with women. I'm like single-minded focus, where I'm just like looking at one thing because life has allowed me to look at one thing in some ways. And I haven't had to practice multitasking in that way. But even multitasking isn't the best thing. Being present in the moment and being fully with the people that are in your life in that moment, I think is essential, for men. If I'm home, even though, because, work is hard, you spend 10, 12, 14 hours at work. When you get home, you're exhausted, right? But that's when work starts. You're not working to work. You're working for those 3 to 4 hours that you have with your family in a safe and sound home, where all the lights are on and the heat's working and the water's running and there's food in the refrigerator. You're fighting for those 3 to 4 hours with your family, so that you can invest in your children, so that you can nurture your marriage, so that you can, invest in yourself. All those things are important. But we invest so much in the world, by the time we get home, we're just completely spent. The real work starts then. Yes, absolutely. That's when the real work starts. So yeah, presence, your attendance is not the only thing. And we don't expect that for anything else. You don't go to school and just say, hey, I showed up. and that's all I need to do. You know what I mean? I fall asleep, you know what I mean, in class. No, you need to study. You need to, pay attention in class. You need to participate. You need to raise your hand. You need to ask questions. We don't think that attendance is the only thing we need to do at work. You just show up and then you just kind of put your head down. No, you need to be productive. You need to get sales. You need to, make deepen customer relationships or whatever it is you have to do. What I mean, there's other work to do other than attendance. But, when we get home, we think, hey, I'm here. And the reason for that, honestly, if I just share my personal thoughts with you, I think the reason for that is we think of all the men that aren't there. You know what I'm saying? We think, oh, because that's the stereotype. The stereotype is men aren't in the home at all. So at least I showed up. What? I'm 1 out of 10 just by being here. So it's a favor. You know what I mean? And I like I said, I don't put myself above that. I think I've had that notion as well, if not consciously, subconsciously, because you feel like you're already going above and beyond by going to work, by being a provider. You know what I mean? By not going out and being a philanderer. You know what I mean? And sharing your seed with everybody. You know what I mean? You think, hey, I'm 1 out of 10. I'm a gem. And then that's what people tell you. Oh, you're so lucky. Oh, you got a good man. You got a good man. The church mothers are the worst. Oh, you got a good man. You better fix his plate. Why you not fixing that man's plate? You know what I mean? It's like, yo, chill. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to keep things together. But so we do ourselves a disservice when we buy into the limited thinking of other people's expectations of who we are as men. You know what I mean? Because we can do much better than that. You know what I mean? I have the ability to be present, in my relationships. I have that ability. It's within my power to do so. We have to believe that about ourselves. So yes. So won't belabor the point. If there's anyone else that wants to share, we certainly will. I just wanted to give a quick live and get some more deeper into this book. Oh my gosh, this book has been a gem. And reading this as a man, fully grown now, I wish I had read this when I first got it. I really do. But I don't know if I was in the right place to receive it, honestly, if I'm honest. So we got, this was chapter 7. We got 8, 9, 10, and 11 to do. So we'll finish this book this week for sure. And I'll share this on my YouTube so you can go back and listen. And then we'll be doing discussions all week about this topic in different videos. So thank you so much for sharing this time with me. I'll be on in the morning, reading another chapter, and we'll take it from there. Until then, be well, be safe, and be encouraged. Take care.